You are watching an ORACLOUD Plus Training as a Service video snippet. Snippets are concise, targeted tutorials explaining how to use, configure, integrate, deploy, and support Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications. Snippets are delivered via FAST, the Fusion Application Support Tool. FAST is accessible via the web at www.oracloud.plus. No more watching hours of learning path style videos to get to the 5-minute snippet you need. Learn Oracle's Fusion Cloud applications in minutes, not hours.
Hello and welcome to the Negotiations Overview video presentation. This video is intended for beginners looking to learn more about Fusion's negotiating or sourcing capabilities. It explains the what, where, when, why, who, and how for Fusion's Procurement Cloud Negotiations application, also referred to as a functional work area. This video snippet, as with all ORACLOUD Plus video snippets, can be found within FAST, our Fusion Application Support Tool. To request access to FAST, email us at access@oracloud.plus. Please include your name and contact information in the body of the email and set the title to FAST Access Request. Okay, so the topics for this presentation are as follows. What is a negotiation? What is a program? Negotiation types and subtypes. When are negotiations created? So we'll use our single slide FPC or Fusion Procurement Cloud Business Process Flow. How are negotiations created? Where are negotiations created? Who or what creates those negotiations? And then lastly, why are we creating negotiations at all? So let's get started. So this is a little different. Usually we have some text here. We'll grab something from Wikipedia, but I chose to do a little bit differently in this slide. And so you'll see this gray box with negotiations, and it's really around 3 different boxes: sourcing, deliverables, and contracts. And while you really don't author the contract within the negotiation, you can certainly initiate it from there, and there's a lot of relevance or connectivity. So really, I believe negotiations refers to sourcing, deliverables, and contracts together, and that's supported by the front end of the application, which all the business users see, says negotiations and allows you to do more than just sourcing. And then the back end, where we, the consultants, configure it, shows sourcing, which would indicate that I'm right, that there is actually sourcing is one small element within the negotiations mindset or verbiage. So that's a negotiation. What is a program? Well, programs are a tool that allow sourcing organizations to roll up their different sourcing events and then define objectives, hard or soft, meaning money or not money, and then measure against those baseline objectives. And so you can see some imagery using baseline IT spend here in the image on the left. And if you were to drill down on that first objective, you would find those number of different sourcing events here on the image, or in the image on the right. And so that's what a program is. Again, the whole basis of sourcing is to define with your procurement taxonomy different groupings of spend. And there's different heuristics of each of those groups. One might be the average savings rate. So you wouldn't lump a commodity with a technology software because the discounting or savings from negotiating them might be different. And so this allows you to say, all right, here's this group where we usually get 10% off, and here's the labor cost to run it through given those different types of purchases. Here's what it costs us from a labor perspective. So anything over X dollars of spend makes sense to source. So programs just help you understand, manage, and then manage those results within your internal sourcing group. Next up, negotiation types and subtypes, and they're also known as styles. All right, so you see here, there's really largely 2 types: RFX, where X is a wild card, and auctions. And so the X could be an I, a P, or a Q, meaning RFI, to request for information. RFP, which most often happens after an RFI because you don't know what you're doing and now you want somebody to propose how it should work. Or neither of those two and you do an RFQ. We already know what it is, we just want to know how much. And then you have auctions, both buy, so we're going to buy 1,500 laptops. Mr. and Mrs. Supplier, please come and bid. Or sell auctions, which are the reverse, where they become the customer. The real quintessential difference between the RFX and the auction has to be around a commodity where everybody knows what it is, because you're using time as the weapon to drive down price. So you obviously want a large group of competitors. You want to give them enough time, but then you want them time to work against them so that they will outbid each other, and you'll get, you being procurement, a better price. Okay, so when are negotiations created? Right, so same slide here. This is our single slide FPC Fusion Procurement Cloud business process flow. And so everything in procurement services is either a purchasing service or a sourcing service. So purchasing, self-service is rec order receive. So you have to have content to do that. And you really wouldn't negotiate that. That's the whole point of what's on a catalog. It's been negotiated. But see in the middle of the screen, when you find no item in your purchasing services, well, then you create a non-catalog request. And that non-catalog request initiates one or more of the services in sourcing along the bottom. Keen to those is this third step here, where you can source. And so that's the sourcing activity. That's where those are created, negotiations. Okay, so how do you negotiate? This really varies by organization, but let's give some guidelines so you understand. If you're going to set up styles largely control the instructions. So if one of them tells you it's time-based auction and the other tells you it's a goods buy, and so you need a warranty, or it's a services buy and you need insurance, or it's public works, right? You see how these are very different types of purchases. They might have different instructions to the bidder on what to do. So you have different styles that are laid out. And then as your style intersects with your spend category grouping, like we talked about in the program, you might have templates. So you can pick and pull and reuse. You may also have this theory, as do we at OCP, that by and large, the different types of contracts drive the different styles because they drive the different requirements asked in the sourcing event. And so they tend to work together and tend to be templated. And we have much more IP on that. But if you think about it, if you're going to do hosting, it's probably going to be a template. And you're probably going to ask the same questions. And you want to make sure from an auditability standpoint that those questions are always asked when you do hosting. And so you can use your styles and your templates to do that. Anyway, when you get the style selected, they pick, being the buyer, picks, pulls, edits, publishes, suppliers respond, everybody monitors, it gets closed, there's an award. Next up, where are negotiations created? Well, that's pretty easy. They're always created in Fusion, right? So you may have different starting points from a requisition, you may have requisitions from different applications in Fusion, different applications outside of Fusion, but those negotiations occur in Fusion. And as I've said in other video presentations, that you actually can wrap Fusion around legacy apps, inbound those recs, and create the negotiation inside Fusion as well as the contract. Some pretty cool stuff, but all roads lead to Fusion is the point. Who or what creates negotiations? Well, that's really buyers. You may have sourcing specialists, you may even have contract admins weigh in because of the interplay, but by and large, that's buyers. The only other person than a buyer, you might have a category manager because they understand and control how the different elements of that category are going to be negotiated when, right? So going back to the programs. So that's who and what. And so lastly, why? Well, it really comes down to the same unit cost, increased productivity, decreased counterparty risk. So if you're driving more depth, meaning bidders, inside your negotiation, you're probably going to get better competition, hence better price. Just the fact that you've got them, suppliers, responding in self-service, and you can evaluate their self-service capability as part of your award process, well, then you're going to increase your productivity. And then lastly, we didn't really talk about this, but you can actually display the contract terms and conditions in the sourcing event that they're going to, or the supplier's going to have to adhere to in the contract, as well as facilitate the contract, link all the transactions. There's a definite way to do that. That Fusion will allow you to do that. And so then you decrease your counterparty risk. This is qualification, so I will explain and you probably also want to watch the overview for qualifications. But if your supplier via registration or an initiative has qualifications, those qualifications can automatically be referenced as requirements in this bid. Very nice, very well integrated in terms of the intra-application integration. So that's why negotiate. So you're ready for the next video. Well, do you understand what negotiations are, how they're created, when they are created, who creates them, and why?
If the answer is no, then either watch again or feel free to reach out to me directly. You can see here on the left, that's my email address, and I'm always available to answer questions. If the answer is yes, great, then maybe you want to watch more video. So you can go to our playlist out on YouTube by going to YouTube and searching on ORACLOUD Plus Inc. Or you can go from our website to the tool we call FAST, the Fusion Application Support Tool, and you can access the full catalog of our Learn, Use, Configure, Integrate, Deploy, and Support videos online. So that's it for this tutorial. We hope you found it informative, and keep watching.